where the visa process is. Besides this, we also help employers and skill migrations connect. So that is, filling the regional shortages and supporting Australia's economy. Now, I'd like to introduce Vaibhav. Vaibhav, if you can take that forward for us.
Sorry, thank you very much, Sten, and welcome everyone to this webinar. Here we're going to discuss about 494 visa primarily, but I'm going to also cover other areas of the sponsorship, such as 482 visa, because when you go to DAMA's part of it, we actually have an option to go for 482 or 494, either one. So without wasting much time, the first thing I would like to bring to your notice is that, look, there are a lot of people in Australia who are working in an occupation such as delivery drivers. Like delivery drivers means, let's say if you're doing a fast food delivery, right? You're a pizza delivery driver or a restaurant working for a restaurant, or you're working for a Uber Eats for a full time on a full time basis or a part time basis, right? Forklift drivers working in Sydney, they can easily opt for a 482 or a 494 visa under DAMA. And security officers, if you're working as a security officer in any bars or any public premises such as supermarkets or malls, you can also find sponsorship in regional New South Wales DAMA and get sponsorship. Other one is a truck driver, whereas if you're a general truck driver, you can also apply for it. The next option is waiter. So I see a lot of students work as a waiter, but then they're not able to prove because sometimes they get paid in cash. So you should make sure that even if you're doing all these jobs, you should make sure that you're getting paid on paper and in your bank account, so that you can prove that you've been working. Now, other occupations, these are the very generic occupations that we see. Apart from that, accounts clerk, bookkeepers, payroll clerks, these are more related to people who have studied accounting but not able to get a PR. You can also look at sponsorship in these areas under DAMA. And DAMA includes a lot of areas within New South Wales, which is Orana, Dubbo, which is part of Orana, Bathurst, Orange, Wagga Wagga, Goulburn, Griffith, Albury. So there are many areas where you can easily get a sponsorship or find a job and then later on convince your company to sponsor you, because if you're actually a value for them, they would definitely would want to sponsor you, right? Then office related work, like for example, general clerk, which is like simply scanning documents, booking appointments, is a general clerk. Or office manager, someone's managing the office, or personal assistant of someone. Let's say, for example, a migration agent has a personal assistant and they look after their appointments, their paperwork, everything. They could be sponsored as well as a personal assistant for a 494 generally, as well as under DAMA, right? Then a lot of applicants work as a childcare leader or group leader or as a childcare worker. Now, you don't really have those options for a sponsorship in Sydney, but you can easily get a sponsorship in any of these areas that I've mentioned before under DAMA, which is within the regional New South Wales Orana DAMA. Then other occupations are, let's say, in terms of care providing, aged care or disabled carers, nursing support workers, and personal care assistants. They can also get a sponsorship under this DAMA. Then if you are able to work, or if you have worked in farms, because I see a lot of European countries where people come in on a 417 or a 462 visa, they work in a farm as a fruit picker or a vegetable picker or a farm worker. They can get sponsorship as for a 482 visa or a 494 visa under this DAMA in any of these areas. And especially, let's say, for example, Griffith, where if you see, it's a very good area where you can easily find jobs in farms because it's more of an agriculture area. Then there are occupations such as meat process workers, meat boner and slicer, seafood process workers, bakery factory workers, boiler and engine operator, or dairy products makers, right? So if I understand that this occupation might not be too many people working in these areas, but we have seen a lot of people work in these areas as well. So if you see, these are the list of occupations that if you're working in Sydney in these areas as well, what you need to do is just simply find the similar job in regional area and then later on convince your employers to sponsor. And if you're really long term and if you are very hardworking, I believe that we have seen most of our clients are able to find companies to sponsor them for these visas. Now let's discuss about 494 first. So 494 visa is a regional sponsored employer sponsored visa. So basically what it means, you need a company to sponsor you. 494 visa is a 5 years provisional permanent visa technically. So what you need to do is you need to have an occupation on the list for a 494 visa. Now, as I said, for example, let's say a retail manager. So if you're working as a petrol station manager or Hungry Jack's or a McD or a pizza shop, Pizza Hut, let's say, for example, if you're working as a manager for those companies, so your occupation is a retail manager, you can get a sponsorship under 494, which you cannot get in Sydney, right? In any of the regional area in Australia, not only in Dama. This is because this occupation is generic and it's available in all area of Australia, right? Except Sydney, Melbourne. So now 494 visa, when it's granted, it's a 5 years provisional visa. The condition of your visa is that you have to live and work in a regional area for 5 years and work with your company for 3 years at least. And then after 3 years, you can apply for a 191 visa. What you need to prove is just that you are on a 494 visa for last 3 years. You've been continuously working for your sponsored employer who sponsored you for your 494 visa, unless if you have changed your employment. And you have been living and working in regional New South Wales or regional Australia, basically, right? So, and then once you get your 191, that's your PR, and then you don't really have any obligation to work for your employer anymore. But why would your employer sponsor you? Is because they will get a committed employee for next 3 or 4 years, and while they are not able to find local people from Australia for the same role. Now, I've already mentioned all these details. Basically, it allows you to get 5 years visa, live and work in a regional Australia. You'll need to get a sponsorship, and your employer can't find a sponsored. You can't find a suitable worker for their business within those particular skills. Then they can sponsor you for this visa. After 3 years, you can apply for 191, right? And you can also bring your family members along when you apply for this visa. Now, to simplify the eligibility criteria, as I mentioned before, you need a company to sponsor, and the company must be located in any regional area of Australia. Your occupation must be on the list for that particular visa, let's say, which is 494. And if you're applying under DAMA, then your occupation has to be under the DAMA list. If you're applying for a 494 visa without DAMA, then you have to have at least 3 years of work experience and a positive skills assessment. And your age has to be under 45, unless you're sponsored under DAMA. Now, under DAMA, your age, you get up to 5 years, 55 years old age. So whereas age limit for a 494 generally is 45, but if you go for a 494 or a 482 visa under DAMA, your age limit can go up to 55. And you need to get a competent English, where basically you need just IELTS 6 each or PTE 50 in each module. Now, what is Orana Dama? As I mentioned, in Orana Dama, basically they have an occupations that I mentioned, and obviously there are many more occupations as well. But I've just given you the gist of the occupations. I will repeat those occupations just in case if someone has joined late. Number one is a delivery driver, where fast food delivery drivers are fine, like for example, Menu Log and all those ones. And if you find a sponsor in regional New South Wales, in Orana Dama area, where they're ready to sponsor you as a delivery driver for their business, you can get a sponsorship. Let's say, for example, pizza delivery driver, it's fine. Forklift drivers, security officers, truck drivers, waiters, accounts clerks, bookkeepers, payroll clerks, excuse me, general clerk, office manager, personal assistant, childcare group leaders, and childcare workers. Excuse me, I think something stuck on my. Uh... All right. Age or disabled carers, nursing support workers, and personal care assistants, fruit and vegetable pickers, fruit and nut pickers or packers, vegetable pickers, mixed production farm workers, like any farm worker basically, meat process workers, meat boners and slicers, seafood process workers, baking factory workers, boiler and engine operators, daily products makers, so on. So there are many more occupations, but this is the gist of it. So because there are a lot of people on a student visa or a 417 or a 4462 visa where they work in this particular in this kind of work because it's easy to find jobs in Sydney in this kind of areas. That's why if you find the same job in the Orana region, which includes not only the Orana region, but it also includes Dubbo, Orange, Bathurst, Wagga Wagga, Goulburn, Griffith, Albury. So it also covers other RDAs where if your occupation is on that list for Orana Dama and if your business that is sponsoring you is located in any of these areas, and if your employer is happy to sponsor, your employer has to be just operating there for at least 12 months. They can apply for these occupations which are not available generally for 482 or a 494 visa, right? So these occupations are only available, for example, in Orana Dama. So it might not be available in other damas, right? So basically, if you have a sponsor in Orana region, as I mentioned, Orana region means for this dama application is a lot more than normal Orana region. Now in dama, what you get is and concession for a lot of things. Number one is an occupation, which is, as I said, the occupations that are generally not available for a 482 or a 494 sponsorship are available for 494 and 482 sponsorship under DAMA. The other concessions that you can get is you have a permanent residency pathways in this one after 3 years. Age concession, age limit can go up to 55 years instead of standard 45 years of age limit. English criteria, generally you need 6 each in IELTS, which is competent English. But in DAMA, you can get lower English language requirement as well. And TSMIT, that is the salary requirement, which is currently set as 73,150. But in a lot of occupations, you can also get concession for your salary. Whereas this is not, this kind of concessions are not available in normal 482 or a 494 visa, where you really have to meet the criteria that is mentioned. Now, with the visa process, the process is the first is you obviously identify your employer. If your employer is happy to sponsor, your employer has to meet minimum criteria, which is they've been operating in Australia for at least 1 year. You need to have at least 1 year of work experience in relevant field and generally certificate 3-level qualification for those kind of occupations that I mentioned before. Right. So it's not very like, in generally for 494 standard, you need 3 years of full-time work experience and a skill assessment. Whereas here you just need 1 year of experience and skill assessment, which actually reduces the criteria by a very big margin, right? So therefore, DAMA is more ideal option to go for. Now, the first thing is we prepare and apply for an RDA nomination with Orana DAMA, conduct the labor market testing, then submit an application for DAMA endorsement. If once the DAMA endorsement is done, then we apply for a company's labor agreement with the Department of Home Affairs. If the labor agreement is approved, then we apply for a nomination for your company to nominate you, and then later on we apply for your visa. Now, standard eligibility criteria for a 494 visa is age has to be less than 45. Nomination has to be done by the company that is approved and operating in regional Australia. Relevant skills and qualification is minimum 3 years of experience required full-time or equivalent part-time, and you need a positive skill assessment. And standard English language requirement is 6 each, which I've already mentioned. This is a standard requirement for a 494. But if you go for a DAMA, you can get a lot more concession on this one. For example, age can go up to 55, as I mentioned before. Work experience is only 1 year, and positive skill assessment is required. And English requirement can be lower than the standard requirement, which I've mentioned in this slide. Now, subsequent entrant, that means you can bring family along with you when you apply for this visa, as well as you can also if you get married after you get your visa, you can also apply for your family members' dependent visa, right? Um, Here is the steps that we have articulated under standard pathways. Let's say, for example, under normal pathway, you need to have a skills assessment and English language test, and obviously you'll have to pass the health exam. Whereas in labor agreement, you still need the same thing, but there the work experience requirement is less than what you need in a standard pathway. Um, Documents are pretty much same, which is let's say your passport, your skills assessment, your English language score, your family members documents, etc. The same thing, as long as um, you meet all the criteria, that should not be an issue. Whereas in the labor agreement, the only concession that you get is in English and the salary part, right? The visa is always, again, all of the visas are applied online, so you get a TRN number straight away, and then you can update your documents after you submitted an application as well. So you don't necessarily have to submit all the documents along with the application, right? And then we wait for the outcome. And generally, outcomes are quite taking around 6 to 8 months as of now. Now, let's say once you get a 494 visa, you got your 5 years visa. Now, what you need to do is you need to work 3 years with your nominated sponsor, right? And after 3 years, once you completed working with your sponsor for 3 years, you can then apply for a 191 visa, which I mentioned again before. Where simply what you need to prove is you had 494 visa for 3 years, you lived and worked for your company for 3 years. Now, when you apply for 191, you don't really need a company to sponsor you. That's a good thing because you don't really need your company to help you in the next stage. Excuse me for my voice. So that's the good thing about going for a 494. But let's say if you go for a 482 in the same scenario, you get 4 years, 482 or 5 years, 4 years, 482, sorry. You work with the company for 3 years. But when you apply for a 186 visa after 3 years, you need your company to sponsor you for 186 visa as well. So if you ask me whether should I go for a 482 under DAMA or a 494 under DAMA, I would say go for a 494 under DAMA. And even if you have an option to go for a 494 or 482, I would prefer 494 over 482 because 482 requires a second approval from your company when you're applying for a PR. Whereas in the 494, you don't really need a company to sponsor you in the next stage. That's the advantage of 494 over 482, especially when, let's say, your employer is already located in a regional area and you're getting sponsorship from the regional area only. In that case, it makes no difference to you. But yes, if somebody's in Sydney, they can't go for a 494. So then they have to go for a 482 unless their occupation is not on the 482 list for Sydney. Then you have to go to the regional area. Recently, the department has changed a criteria that if you are on a 482 or a 494 visa, previously you had to find a new sponsor within 60 days, then it changed to 90 days. Now it has changed to 180 days. That means it gives you almost 6 months to find a new employer. Number one. Number two, the best thing that's happening now is before previously you could not work for your new company before you get a nomination and approval for the transfer of your nomination. You can't really start working for the company. But now, even though you have applied for a nomination and your nomination has not been approved, you can still start working for the new company for 180 days. That means 6 months, right? So for 6 months, you can still end your employment and work for another company for another 6 months. Now, maximum it can go to is 365 days. That's fine. And you can work for other employers that we have already covered. Your sponsors, we have an obligation that they have to notify the Department of Home Affairs of any changes in your employment. That means even, let's say, ceasing your employment, they have to inform the Department of Home Affairs that your employment has ceased. And within that 28 days of your employment ceasing date or any other changes within your employment, right? That's the end of my slide. Now, I would probably like to leave the stage open for you to write your questions in the chat box, and I can answer your questions specifically for any questions that you might have. Right. So the first question that I've got is production or plant engineer chances. Is offshore, superior English, 6 years of experience, and age is below 30 and has NATI. can I expect an invitation? So the last invite for the same occupation was at 90 points. So yes, as you mentioned that you have 189 90 points and 190 95 points. Yes, your chances are really good because you have 90 points, and the last cutoff, if you look at for production or plant engineer, was at 90 points, right? Another question that we have from Dikshit is, what are the chances in NSW for a mechanical engineer or engineering technician? 75 points. Look, with 75 points, your chances are not very bright because it might really depends on the cutoff because the NSW has just started the invitations and we have not seen the invitations for mechanical engineering technician yet. And if there is an invitation round, we will know. We can tell you more about it because it depends on the number of applicants waiting in the queue. If anybody has any questions, you can place it. I have few questions that have come in from other platforms, and that's on my paper here with the from marketing team. First is a civil engineer. How many points for a PR? Excuse me. For a civil engineers, still the PR is still at 90 points. As I mentioned, most of the engineers are getting an invite at 90 points. If you want to increase your chances of getting an invite for 190 visa, you should probably go for a sponsorship with Western Australia because that's where you have a better chances. Then the next question is there any chance to get PR with USS master degree? Yes, it depends on the degree that you have studied in, what field you have studied in. But yes, if you have a relevant work experience or so on, you can. If not, as I mentioned, if you're in Australia, you can work in the area or any of these occupations for 1 year and you can easily get a sponsorship. Is a software engineer in priority list for New South Wales? Yes, it is on the list for a New South Wales. And however, the cutoff points, you can probably expect that it will go up to 95 or 100 points. Because if you see, there are a lot of people waiting in the queue in New South Wales for the same occupation. I've got one more question from Justin. Is there any chance for an ICT support and test engineer NEC in New South Wales? And any chances for early childhood teacher for 189 and 190 NSW 85 points? Especially with ICT support engineer and test engineers, if your occupation is on the New South Wales list, yes, definitely. Because this kind of occupation might have a lower cutoff, but I don't think this occupation is on the list for New South Wales from my memory. So if your occupation is on the list, yes. If it is not on the list, then definitely you're out of the question for New South Wales because if your occupation is not on the list, you can't really apply for a New South Wales 190 or 491 nomination unless you're working in your nominated occupation in regional New South Wales. Then you can apply for a 491. The next question is any chances for a early childhood teacher at 189 and 190 from New South Wales? Yes, 85 points is a good point. If you look at the last cutoff for a 189 visa, the cutoff was at 75 points. And I'm very hopeful that New South Wales as well, you'll have a lower cutoff because most of the invites have been taken from 189 invitation round recently that happened on 5th of September. So yes, your points are good. If you can increase, always obviously recommending to increase the points, but with these current points that you have, you still have a very good chances. The next question is from Rashmila. If a 482 employee's nomination got cancelled, and worst case, if she's not able to find the job within 6 months, what are the options she has? Now it depends. Like you can still go for a student visa, for example, if you are if you're not able to find a sponsor, if you can't find the job at all in another field or with another company. The last case, worst case scenario is you can go for a student visa as well. Next question is from Aryan. I'm working for a small size accounting firm in regional area, but the turnover is less than million. Can they still sponsor me because it's a regional area? Now it depends. Yes, that they could be if they fall under Orana DAMA, a regional area, like as I mentioned, on these areas which is Dubbo, Orange, Bathurst, Wagga Wagga, Griffith, Albury. Yes, you can. Because accounts clerk is available, for example, there, and your company doesn't really have to have $1 million turnover for that purpose, right? So yes, it depends. and it depends on the occupation as well. Some occupation has the like for example, accountant has a caveat of 1 million turnover, but that does not apply to certain occupations under Urana Dama, right? So, what are the chances for an agriculture engineer between 80 points for 190 NSW having a superior English? I'm not sure if this occupation on the list, but if I got the same points in Victoria, which is the best one, I believe Victoria would be a better option because Victoria has a better chances to get an invitation from for agriculture engineer. I had someone who had an invitation recently from Victoria, but not from New South Wales. And I'm sure for New South Wales, we'll have a very competitive, uh, situation. So better to target Victoria in that case. Now in Victoria, if you are working in a scale level 1 to 3, your 491 has a better chances, and 190 has a good chances. And the next question is, what are the chances for an agriculture engineer with 80 points? I think it's the same question again. Next question is from Ali Sajid, a motor mechanic based in Melbourne. Yes, if you're working as a motor mechanic and if you have a good points, you still have a good chances. And if you've graduated from Melbourne, you should apply for a 491 RY as well. If you're not getting, or if you think your points are not enough, you can apply for a 491 RY as well from for Victoria. What are the chances for an agriculture engineer? I think I've got the question again. Electrical engineer and 90 points for industry. Electrical engineer 90 points. Again, I think it's a good point because the cutoff that we have seen for 189 was at 90 points in 189. That means you have 85 points for 189. So you have a good chances there as well. You're just 5 points away from that. And if you see New South Wales, once they start inviting, we might see that there's a good number of invitations in that one, right? We have no experience as delivery driver, and we find a sponsor. Can we still apply? So if you don't have the work experience as a delivery driver, then you have to first work 1 year to qualify. But yes, you can do that if you have 1 year visa left. Like let's say if you're on a 485 visa, you've left with 1 year visa, you work 1 year, then get your company to sponsor you, right? So yes, you can if you have a sponsor. Uh, After receiving 494 visa, how many years will you have to stay with the current employer? After receiving 494, you have to work with the company for at least 3 years. And then 3 years later, you can apply for 191. Once you get your 191, you don't really have to work for your employer anymore. What about ICT auditor with 75 points offshore? ICT auditor. I don't think there is any occupation called ICT auditor. So we have to identify a relevant occupation. I have applied for maintenance planner occupation and I have got positive skills assessment. Now we are going to apply for EOI. So how many points eligible for invitation outcomes? I believe maintenance planner is not on 189 and 190 list. It's only for a 494, if I'm not wrong. And if that's the case, you will have to. So it's on a short-term list, but no, sorry, let me check. I think maintenance planner is, yes, it's on a regional occupation list. That means you can only apply for a 491 and a 494 visa. So you have to either work in a regional New South Wales for 6 months as a maintenance planner to get an invitation, or go to regional Victoria, or let's say I've got someone who got an invite in last financial year, not in the current financial year. In Western Australia, we got an invite for that client for 491 from Western Australia. So I would probably prefer you to probably see if you want to go to Western Australia because that's where you have a better chances because your occupation is not available for 191 and 190 visa. We have another question. It's again the same question. It says, is software engineer now the priority for 190 industry? It is on the list, yes. It is on. I have one more question. New skill in demand occupation list arrives in this month. Question for sponsorship list. Chef, cook, baker will be on the list. Now look, we don't really have the new list yet, but a skill in demand visa, which is a 482's new version, will be available from November. So it's not this month, it will be next month. And most likely it will be 23rd of November. And I don't think the chef, cook, or baker will be out of the list. That means it will be on the list, and because obviously they are still in demand in Australia, anyways. But yes, in the recommendation, it was not there, but it was just a recommendation list, so we don't know whether it will be in this list here or not, because after that there may have been a lot of revisions on this list.
Under what occupation data engineer occupation needs to be assessed, and is it available in New South Wales?
Data engineer, I think, should probably fall on a database administrator as administrator, and yes, it is in the New South Wales list. But obviously, the cutoff points might be higher for that occupation. I've got one more question. Is it motor mechanic based in Melbourne applied for 491 at 85 points undergraduate stream? 485 expires in December 2024. Yes, you're very close to your visa expiry date. You can get in touch with us. We can help you find an alternative solution where we might be able to help you extend from 485 to other visa. And in the meantime, yes, you can apply for, you can expect an invitation for a 491, 85 points, because it's still a good points. It's just that we haven't seen Victoria yet inviting any of the trade occupations. There is one more question from Ankita. What about retail manager? I live in DAMA region. Is there any chance where I can get a sponsorship but not in the field studies? Look, for a retail manager, you don't have to have relevant studies. If you have 3 years of full-time work experience, you can easily get a sponsorship, right? As a retail manager for 494 visa. And there's another question. What about agriculture engineer with 80 points for 190 in NSW having superior English? I think I've already answered this question where Victoria stands a better chance for this kind of occupation in agriculture engineer. And the points that you mentioned is only 80. So definitely Victoria is a better option for that.
Sahil says, I am a chef working in regional with 75,000 salary per year with 85 points. Do I need to increase the points if there is no chances in 491?
I think if you're working in the regional New South Wales,
That is in, and he's asking for Victoria.
Victoria, then I've seen recently we've got an invitation from Victoria, and our client had only 65 points and he got 190 invite from Victoria. So yes, if you're living and working in regional Victoria, your chances of getting an invite is quite good.
What are the, and Betty Pavan asks, what are the chances for motor mechanic for 491 in New South Wales?
Motor mechanics 491, as I said, the invitations hasn't started yet. So it's very hard to say whether what will be the cutoff, and it depends on your points. Like, look, if you are making 100 points or so, your chances are really good, right? But if your points are, let's say, 80 or 85 points, then getting an invitation through the pathway 2 might be difficult. But if you live and work in a regional New South Wales for 6 months, you can easily get an invitation for 491.
For ICT data analyst in New South Wales, how many points are considered good for 190, 189, 491? Is there any chance in this occupation?
I don't think there's an occupation called ICT data analyst. So that would be your company's internal job title, but you'll have to see what occupation fits you best. But yes, any of the IT occupation, I think the cutoff will remain between 95 to 100 points. In very rare case, it will go down to 90 points or 85 points maximum.
Electrical engineer offshore 491. Which states or territory more chances for 85 points?
I think Victoria, New South Wales, and Western Australia would be the best option for you if you're offshore.
Tahelanj says, I'm in Western Australia. Which other state allows me to file EOI as onshore? She is based in Western Australia.
If you're based in Western Australia is the only state that allows you to apply for an EOI from interstate. Rest of all states needs you to be living and working in that particular state. So therefore, I think the best thing for you is to lodge an EOI with Western Australia. If you don't think you can get an invitation there because the cutoff point is higher, then maybe Victoria or New South Wales will be an alternative option. I've got one more question here from Hitesh. Is there any pathway to get a PR through store person? 1 year experience in petrol station in DAMA area of NSW. You need 3 years of work experience if you are working as a retail manager in petrol station. Yes, I have got clients who've been working as a retail manager in petrol stations for 3 years and they've got a sponsorship without DAMA as well. So it doesn't have to be in DAMA area only. It can be anywhere in regional Australia.
It's a Kushal says, I'm doing hairdressing more than 1 year in this field. Can I apply for 482 or what are the criteria?
You need to have qualification related to hairdressing that you must have gained by studying in Australia, and you need to have 2 years of work experience full time, which might change to 1 year from November 2024. So if the new rule comes in, then you just need 1 year of experience. If not, then you'll need 2 years of full time experience. There is one more question from Amit. Can you get a visa with an accountant general skill assessment plus 7 each in PTE, whereas no experience related to skill assessment and age is 33 years old? Yes, you can, but you'll have to plan properly. Like as I mentioned, for example, let's say going to run a DAMA, where you can easily get a sponsorship if you work 1 year. If you work in the regional New South Wales for 6 months as an accountant, you can also get a sponsorship. If you go to Victoria and if you are having a good points, like good points is for 491, your chances are good there as well. So there are multiple states, but yes, for an accountant with 7 each and less points, it will be challenging, but it's not impossible. Akshay is asking, can we apply for a recent graduate pathway for 491 in Victoria after got refusal in student visa? Yes, you can, as long as you have completed studies in Victoria and you have completed 2 years to study in Victoria. Yes, you can still apply for a 491 ROI even if your student visa is refused.
Singh Reddy asks, I'm living in Queensland. I have 95 points for 190 and ICT business analyst. Are there any chances?
Sorry, can you come again?
I am living in Queensland. I have 95 points for 190 in business analyst. ICT business analyst. Are there any chances?
If you're working in Western in Queensland, yes, you've got a good chances. If you're not working, maybe the better chance you will have is in New South Wales or Victoria. So it depends on if you're working in Queensland. Yes, definitely still good chances there. I've got one more question from Ankita again. My employer got rejection in nomination. The reason his position is not genuine. BP petrol station in regional area. Should he apply once again? Is there any chances to get a positive outcome? Yes, certainly. Touch wood, I have not got any refusal yet for petrol stations or pizza shops, Hungry Jacks, McD's. None of these have been refused yet as a retail manager so far with me. So yes, I think maybe your employer may not have explained the genuineness of the sponsorship very well, and therefore you might have got a refusal.
Okay, this is an off-topic query. Mr. Vaibhav would like to apply subclass 462 for my spouse. Are there any chances? She's working as a nurse in India.
462 visa for Indian passport holders has to be applied through a ballot. That means it's more of a lottery system, and they have to be between 18 to 30 years of age. So if she meets the criteria, yes, you can apply for a ballot, and if you're selected, then only you'll be able to apply for a 462 visa. But if you are in Australia, you can always apply for your wife to accompany you as your dependent. Now, I've got one more question from Reith. Chances for 190 motor mechanic outer regional area, 80 points with state. Visa expires in 2026. What about general accountant for DAMA with offshore experience only? Sorry, I think we're mixing up. So 190 motor mechanic outer regional area, is that in New South Wales? Then definitely good chances, because if you are getting paid 73,150, you can directly apply for a 491 nomination with New South Wales, which, if you're working in a regional New South Wales, you already qualify for it. And there's another question. What about general accountant for DAMA with offshore experience? You can, with offshore experience as well as an accountant general under DAMA.
Pawan asks, 65 points is enough to get PR for PR motor mechanic, 190 visa in MSW?
No, I don't think so. For New South Wales, 65 points is enough for 190 visa. Whereas if you work in a regional New South Wales for 491, yes, you still have a good chances. I've got a question from Majid. 491 pathway 1. Can we go for India and come back within 2 weeks? Do I breach the condition of 6 months and 3 months of living in NSW? No, if you travel overseas for a holiday period, that does not count as a break in your requirements. So yes, you can travel for 2 weeks, not a problem.
Dr. Vyom asks, what are the points required for physiotherapist for 190?
Look, by heart, obviously, I won't remember. But physiotherapist, I don't think there is a competition. So even with the lowest points, you should be able to get an English in New South Wales.
Oppressy asks, what are the chances for quantity surveyor, 85 points, regional New South Wales for 189 and 190?
Good chances for 189 and 190, as well as good chances for 491, because your occupation, again, not many people are applying. So, and not many people have the skills assessment in this occupation. Therefore, it gives you an edge that you won't have much competition, and therefore your chances are good.
Mansi asks, 70 point is enough to get PR for chemist?
For a chemist, I don't remember by heart, but whether it's on the list or not, first of all, but I'm sure it's not on New South Wales list, if I'm not wrong. I will also have to check because that's something that I don't remember by heart. Chemist. Now, chemist is on a the medium and long term list. Yes, and for 190, let's see if chemist is on the list. Yes, chemist is on the list. So I think yes, you still have a good chances. But how many points did you mention?
70 points.
70 points is not a great chances for 190. Might be a good one for 490.
Kushal asks, what are the PR pathways of advanced diploma of civil construction?
For civil construction, again, if you have good points, New South Wales 190, 491, you stand a good chances. Western Australia is really doing well right now there as well because they give priority to the construction industry. And the same thing with Victoria, you can still expect a good result in any of these three states. Now, depending on your points and other factors, like whether you have jobs and no, depending on that, we probably choose the state depending on those factors. But yes, you still have a good chances.
Bhavik asks, for SC 190, 85 points in civil engineering technician, what are the chances in NSW?
NSW, I think it's still a competitive points, but if you are a civil engineering technician, and if it is on a medium and long term list, I think it is, if I'm not wrong, civil engineering technician. Let me check. Yes, it is on a medium and long term list. So your chances of getting invite for a 189 visa is higher than a 190. But your 190's chances are still good. Even if there is one round, I think you'll probably have an invitation for 189 as well.
So Akshar asks, what is the expectation for carpentry for next 3 years? Is it a good profile?
Carpentry, if you Google and if you look at the interview conducted in September 2024 by NSW Premier, they clearly said that they need every 7 minutes they need one house. That means they need 1 month, they need around 6,000 houses. That's the shortage they have right now. So if you look at next 3 to 5 years, definitely any trade course that falls under construction, like painters, bricklayer, tiler, plumber, they will all see a good number of invitations from the Department of Home Affairs as well as state. And if you see, you'll also see a lenient approach from the government for 482 visas for this visa as well, these occupations. Okay. There's a question from Majid. Sam, 80 points, 190 civil engineer offshore. Not a bad points, but not a really great points. I would suggest you apply for a 491 one more question. I'm a commercial engineer, studied 5 years, but only 1 year experience. Also have a diploma for 6 months in photography and have 5 years of experience. I worked freelancer photo. Can I apply for the visa? Apply. Taking photos? Can I apply to a visa? While sending you message, please select meeting group chat. Maybe it's just an internal message. So what they've done is worked as a photographer. Yes, if you're able to get a skill assessment as a photographer is also on a medium and long term list. And again, there's very less competition. So yes, definitely good chances for that too. There's a question from Nirav. If I work in a regional NSW in a grocery shop, then what will be the best pathway for me? If you've been working for last 3 years as a retail manager for that grocery shop, you can get a 494 sponsorship from that company. So yes, a good chance for that too. Then the next question I have from Vinay is, I have recently moved to Western Australia. I'm a bit worried about proof of residency document. I have changed my address in my license, health insurance. I have proof of flight ticket. I have bank statement for transaction proof, but am sub-renting here at the moment and they are not willing to add my name on the lease. Is it mandatory to have the lease agreement? No, it's not mandatory to have the lease agreement. You can probably sign something called a flatmate agreement. If you Google, you'll find a flatmate agreement template. You simply print that, fill in, and get that signed with your share flatmates. That should be good enough.
It says Patel Harsh says he is in regional under non-IT business. If that business shows IT role will sponsor me. If that business sponsors that particular profile, will there be any chances for him?
Is there an IT company in the regional area?
Not sure. He says that it is a non-IT business.
If it is non-IT business, look, it's not like a non-IT business cannot sponsor an IT occupation. There should be a genuine need of that position. So basically, let's say, for example, Woolworths. Many people might know and might not know that Woolworths has a nice IT team. And it's not 1 through 10, 20 people, maybe hundreds of people working in Woolworths. Now, Woolworths is a retail company, right? They do sell food products and everything, right? But they have an operation of a scale where they need a software. Like our company needs a software. So we use the software that is indigenously designed by our company. So, and that's why we also employ around 20, 30 people in IT team. So that, yes, even though our business has nothing to do with IT, we can sponsor an IT occupation because we genuinely have a software that is in-house designed and developed and maintained on a regular basis.
Tehlan asks, what is the competition for industrial pharmacist in Western Australia? Can I expect invitation at 70.491? Unsure.
Honestly, I'm not sure of this occupation because I haven't noticed any invitations in this one. But I would suggest you look at the overall cutoff of your occupation or get in touch with us and we can help you out in identifying whether, Western Australia is a better chance or you have a better chance somewhere else.
Just Singh asks, what about Master of Secondary Teaching currently in Minister?
Now, secondary school teaching, definitely good chances because school teacher, again, in New South Wales as well as entire Australia, there is a high shortage of this occupation. Therefore, it means that you're likely to get an invitation at lower points. And if you see a last invitation round report, the cutoff was at 75 points.
Chaitanya asks, how many points would be good to get PR for software engineer and support engineer with work experience of 1 year under 189 and 190?
189, you need at least minimum 90 points. 190, you need at least 95 points, which is obviously if you have 189, 90 points, 190 will be 95.
Himalayan Travel asks, his wife is a dentist and he did his MBA, 10 plus years of work experience. What are the PR pathways? Please suggest.
I think it's a very broad discussion because your wife can apply for a dentist registration. She'll have to complete the ADC exam. Or if she can find a job in regional New South Wales, she can be sponsored as a dental hygienist or a dental assistant or so on. And for an MBA graduate, depends on what did you do for your work. We can look at your profile, but it's not something that we can assess straight away because obviously we need to know more about your work experience and everything. And then we can guide you understand the options.
Marina asks, any chances for 190 for with 70 points for registered nurse?
Yes, I think registered nurses will easily have an invitation. Now or sooner or later, you will definitely get an invitation because now that NSW especially has a shrunken occupation list, that means there will be more space for each occupation, right? So eventually the cutoff is likely to go down.
Manoj asks, what are the chances for network administrator financial?
You'll need more points for network administrator for sure, not less than 95. I think you don't have chances for 190. But yes, if you're working in regional New South Wales, again, 491 is definitely sure. And if you have good points, 491 again through the pathway 2 is also good. I've got a question from Hitesh. If my employer is ready to do DAMA labor agreement, then should be fine with 1 year experience, occupation store person. We will have to see how do you mean by a store person? Is that a retail manager level of a store person or just like your console operator? But yes, if your companies have to sponsor and they fall under DAMA area, then yes, you can opt for that option. And there is a question from Sushant. As a graduate working in ICT specialist for 1.5 years with 85 plus 5 points, still no response from the state. Any chances for a 190 pre-invite? If in South Australia, yes, you still have a good chances. But if you are tired of waiting, then probably Victoria would be a better option, because if you can get a job in Victoria, I've got an invitation recently with a similar profile, and it was not too long wait for them. So yes, definitely. But Australia has not started invitations yet, so I would not hurry up or rush in making a decision unless you have an option in Victoria where you have a job as well. Do we need to be residing in regional area to apply for a DAMA? Not at the time of application. You don't have to be residing in a regional area to apply for a DAMA, but your business that is sponsoring has to be operating in DAMA. Right. Next question is from Vinay. What are the chances for a mechanical engineer 491, 100 points and 90 points for 190? Yes, definitely good chances for in Western Australia. And even if you go to other states like Victoria or New South Wales, you still stand a good chances. But yes, in Western Australia as well, we have a good chance there. Do we need to be residing in regional areas to apply for DAMA? That's been already answered. Saira, can bridging visa C, waiting for a protection visa, apply for a 482 visa, experience 1 year occupation in automotive field? Yes, if you do meet other criteria and you have a sponsor to sponsor you, definitely you have a good chances to be able to apply for a 482 visa. However, if you are on a bridging visa C and you have a section 48 applicable to you, you still have to go offshore when you apply for a 482 visa. But you can still do the sponsorship and nomination when you're in Australia. And then when you apply for a visa, you have to go outside Australia and wait for the 482 visa to be granted. One more question from Komal Ba. I'm working as a prime school laboratory technician. Can I apply for a 494 with 1 year of experience? Honestly, your occupation is a bit of a niche one. We'll have to see whether there is an occupation that is relevant to your work. And if yes, you can, but you'll need a sponsor to apply for a 494. Reet, sir, motor mechanic, 80 points, 90 with 190 with state, outer regional South Australia. Visa expires 2026. I think you might have to wait for a while to see how the South Australia goes. But if you don't see any good invitations, then probably by that time you will see what are the other state inviting it. And if other states are inviting at a lower points, you can get in touch with us. We can tell you which state you should go. There is one more question from, I am currently pursuing Masters in Construction Project Management. However, I have only one offshore experience and qualification as an accountant general. Which of these profession and my situation has most chances for DAMA? If you can find a job as an accountant, assistant, or a bookkeeper, you can easily go for a DAMA in regional New South Wales. For a Masters of Construction Project Management, obviously we have to discuss more because we need to know more about your personal details, such as experience, etc., and when you're going to complete your course.
1 billion asks, I submitted an EOI for organizational analyst last September with 90 points for 190. But since it is no longer in the NSW scale list, what options do I have? My 485 visa is expiring.
I think Victoria would be the best option for you. But look, I think for your case, you still need a detailed analysis of your case, because it's something that you might just, if you take an online advice, like just asking a question, you might go and take a wrong step. So I would not suggest that simply make a decision. But yes, we'll have to look at the recent data. But I believe Victoria would be a better option for you.
Shailesh asks, what are the chances of an electrical engineer with 75 points in 189, 190, and 19491 subclass with positive skill assessment of 8+ years? In which state I'll have maximum chances?
I think Victoria, you would have a better chances. And New South Wales, you'll have a better chances for 491. And Victoria, you'll have a chances for 190 and 491 both. But again, both state as a 491 has got a better chances.
Somebody, Vikram asks, he has an electronics engineering assessment, which is the best subclass to apply for.
Electrical
engineering assessment, skills assessment.
And what are the
chances for which subclass should you apply?
It depends on the points. Let's say if you have a 90 or 95 points, 189 is better. If you have less points, then 190. If you have 90, 95 points, 189 and 190, both has better chances. And if you don't have that many points, then probably 491 would be a better option for you. I have a question from Jitender. Chances for a computer network systems engineer 70 points, 491 in Queensland. I highly doubt that, it's very hard to tell you right now because Commissioner has not conducted any round yet where we have seen any invitations for computer network engineers and at 70 points. 70 points for 491 is considered to be a bit lower. So I would recommend that you look at your profile and or consult an agent to discuss in detail on what are the options you have. Another question from Komal is school laboratory technician with 1 year experience done Bachelor's of Science. As I mentioned before, you probably need an assessment for your case because we don't know whether there is any particular occupation for this job that fits your profile, right? So then another question from Machas. What is the requirement for a TSMIT for NSW pathway 1? Can I work part-time like 24 hours per week and pay rate is equivalent to 73,000? Yes, that will meet the criteria because that's what they say, that your TSMIT has to be calculated on a pro rata basis. That means even if you are working 24 hours, but your salary is, let's say, more than $38 per hour, it will meet the criteria. So yes, it's fine. Reet, again, I think she's already asked the question, so that's done. Nasfia, 190, psychologist NEC with 80 points and 189, 75 points. Yes, I think you stand a good chances, Nafisa, because your again your occupation doesn't really have much competition, I believe. So the points are not much of a concern as long as the state and the federal government invites your occupation.
Pankaj asks, what are the chances for ICT business analyst for 95 points for 190 NSW? I have experience of 3 years, which is Australian experience.
NSW always prefers applicants with work experience. So, and if you have 95 points, you still have good chances. Wait for I think one or so round, and you'll know. But if you see the recent invitation rounds, I think we have seen cutoffs at 100 points mostly. But it's the first round after 6-8 months, so obviously it's likely to clear the higher cutoff points first, and then will go down to 95. So, but if you have work experience, you still have good chances.
Sidra asks, her husband is a welder, and he's working with a welding company in Sydney. He has less experience, but his employer is willing to sponsor him for 4 days.
If he's got a relevant work experience, and I believe a welder depends on the country of origin, has a mandatory skill assessment, and if you have a mandatory skill assessment and if your country of passport is in that list, then you'll need a skill assessment. Otherwise, he can easily get a sponsor.
Cozy asks, what are the chances for motor mechanics, general NSW for 189 and 190?
It depends on the points again, but for a motor mechanics, you're looking at higher cutoffs for 190 and 189.
Mr. Vyom asks, again, he's the same person who is a therapist. He has 65 points. Is he eligible for 190?
If you have 65 points, yes, you qualify for 190. You can apply for an EOI. But as I said, but more points, the better chances. But this occupations does not have a lot of competition. So that means, you're likely to get invite with lower points as well.
And Sidra says that her husband's country of passport is Pakistan for welder.
As I'll have to check whether mandatory skill assessment is on that list or not for a welder and for the country of passport that you mentioned. So welder and with country of passport Pakistan, the skill assessment is not compulsory. So that means, yes, you can apply for a 482 visa sponsorship as long as your husband's got a relevant qualification for it.
Ankit Patel asks, sir, I'm working as a store person in a grocery store. There is any chance for 482 and 186 in New South Wales? My employer is happy to sponsor me.
I think this has been already covered here. Yes, you can. If you've got 3 years of work experience, then you can apply for a 494 sponsorship as a retail manager with the company.
Vikram asks, are there any chances for chef and regional NSW with 75 points, earning 79,000 yearly?
Easily, you can get 491 for sure. 190 will depend on the cutoff, but 190, 491 for sure you can get it.
And Umama Fatima asks, for pharmacists points, on which PR is easy? Which PR is easy for if somebody wants to opt for pharmacists?
So look, if you go for a pharmacy technician, if you have 1 year experience as a pharmacy assistant or technician, you can apply for a pharmacy technician. If you can complete the CAPS exam, or now I think they've changed the name of the CAPS exam, but Basically, if you can get a registration as a retail pharmacist, you still have a good chances for that as well. Again, 190 and 491 has got a better chances for that.
So Dhara Solanki asks for NSW 491 pathway, which is chef. Am I eligible after 6 months or after 2 or 3 months?
No, you can only apply for a 491 pathway 1 after completing 6 months of work with the company. And that employment has to be continuous with the same employer.
I think Ankit, your question has been answered by Vaibhav. It says that yes, you can apply for a 482 if the employer is happy to sponsor you.
494, I believe.
494.
Retail manager.
Yeah, I think
I've got few questions here, and I think we'll then wrap the webinar for today. So I've got a question from Fahad. Currently, there are 50 EOIs for a production and plant engineer, but I am last to 189 invitation round. Only less than 20 candidates were invited. Is it a concern for my case? 189, 90 points. I have better chances for 190. Yes, you have a chances for both actually. So you should lodge an EOI for both of these. And 189, definitely you have 90 points, then your chances are good. There are obviously, we'll have to look at the details of your case, but there is possibility that you can easily get an invitation in this occupation. What if I have 85 points in ICT business analyst, but I am in Perth, inside Perth, I am in the regional city, Banbury, with a job as well as in the field. Your company can sponsor for a 482 visa if your company is happy to sponsor, because, or if you are ready to move to Victoria, your chances, because I've had an invitation, again, similar profile in Victoria, got an invitation easily for 190 as well. So, but yes, you still have a good chances in Perth too, and especially because I think your regional area has a DAMA as well. So you should look at that too. Question again from Majaj. I'm at 70 points, 189, 75 points, 190. My occupation is early childhood teacher. What would be the chances in New South Wales? My visa expires in May 2025. I think if you have 70 points for 189, you're just little bit lower with the points. If you can't increase your points, I would suggest increase your points. If you can't increase your points, then 491 would be a backup option for you. But if you can increase your points, then yes, 189 and 190, you still have good chances. One question from Karthik. How to apply for 494? I believe you'll probably have to attend our upcoming session where we are going to discuss about 494 again. Basically, you need a company to sponsor you for a 494 sponsorship. And if you have a company, then yes, you can apply for a 494. Another question from Fahad. Any idea when can we expect a 189 round next? Honestly, there is no announcement from the department, but looking at it, you might expect every 3 or 4 months, one round from the government. So if there was one round in September, you might expect a round in December sometime. And that's happened last year as well. So I'm hoping that's a round should happen at least by December. One more round for 189. Huh? Another question from Anchirk. I have 90 points. I said a business analyst in NSW. Super English, working in nominated field. What is the chance? If you're working in the field, you still have a good chances, but it's just that you have, I think, 5 points less than what I would expect for an invitation. But yes, if you're working in the field, that will still keep your hope alive. But yes, you're still, because you're at 90 points, I think the cutoff that I expect should go down to 95 easily. 90 points is very hard to say right now because we haven't seen many invitation round yet. Only one round has happened from New South Wales, and that indicates that the lowest that would probably go for now is 95.
Just last question and then we'll wrap this up. Mr. Prince says that his brother is in India and he has 10 years of experience as an electrical engineer. He has 85 points for 491. What are the chances of getting a visa?
Offshore, look, none of the states have started inviting offshore applicants. And especially if you have 85 points only for a 491, is not considered to be very good points as well. Not considered to be very bad. So, but it depends on whether the state starts inviting people from offshore. And looking at the current housing crisis, the government is not very keen on offshore applicants.
So I think we will take just one more question. It says, Mr. Santosh says that I have 90 points, recently completed my master's. Is it good to wait for 491? I'm also looking to do carpentry. Is it a good chance?
Yes, you should always have a plan B. So therefore, yes, definitely agreed that you should go for another course. But depends on the occupation and depends on the points that you'll have. We can also look at your current profile and see whether we can get a skill assessment. And if we can get a skill assessment, how many points you will have. And based on that, you can have plan A, plan B together. So your studying, let's say carpentry plan can go on. And side by side, we can also see if we can get a skill assessment based on your current studies and lodge an EOI and get into the queue at least for an invitation from those factors, because it's never like, it's not like you'll never get an invitation. If you see, let's say, for example, in December 2022, nobody expected that people will in accounting will get an invite with 75 points, 65 points, right? But and a lot of people actually did not lodge even EOI because they thought, oh, I have just 65 points, external auditor, I will not get any. Actually, I had lodged an EOI for my clients, and I've got plenty of EOIs for those clients. And they were like, we had no hope. Why did you lodge an EOI? When I lodged an EOI, they asked me a question that, that I'm not going to get an invite. Why did you lodge my EOI for 189 visa, where 65 points, I'm not going to get an invite? And our answer was the same that, look, yes, as of today, you're not likely to get it. But you don't know whether the rules will change tomorrow, and you might get an invite. So why lodging one EOI doesn't really harm? And when you qualify for that EOI, you should lodge it, right? And that's what I suggest everyone as well, that yes, you should lodge in every possible EOI that we qualify for.
I think that will wrap it.
Yep. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining our webinar. And we are going to conduct regular webinars on different topics. You can refer to our social media pages for upcoming topics. And if you would like to participate, please ensure that you register in advance. And we thank you for joining today. And I hope your queries have been solved and answered promptly and accurately. But if you do have any particular questions and you need a customized pathway for your PR, what we do here at Aussies, we help you design your PR pathway in a way that you don't lose any options that you have. So basically, we always have plan A, plan B model, where we always work with two plans so that, most of the times the clients don't fail, because if the plan A doesn't work, the plan B works, and plan B doesn't work, plan A works. So, and if I hope this information helps you. The purpose of this webinar is to create awareness and at least share the knowledge rather than people just making mistakes when doing their application on their own. Our intention is just purely to help you understand your current position. And if you're stuck, you probably, give your realization in case if you need an agent. It's not every time that you might need an agent, but sometimes it's a high time. Then when you see that you're not able to manage it on your own and you're making a lot of mistakes, that's the time you know that, okay, it's not something that you should do on your own. You need a professional to handle your case. But in case if you're very confident, go on and handle your case on your own. That's completely fine. And this kind of sessions will help you understand and get a better understanding to help you do your case on your own. We thank you for your time today and have a great evening.